I mean, Oscar's on a sinking ship and will not shut the up. This guy it's fascinating. He's going to have to throw the panties and stockings back on and get on OnlyFans to start paying his rent. My boy's running out of money. His ship is sinking very fast, and he's talking shit all the way down. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted, everybody? There you go.
Alright, so I've wanted to make a video on Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya's ongoing feud for a while now, and seeing as this past weekend Baldy called out Oscar for apparently going broke, this feels like a great time to talk about these lovebirds. These two have been going at it for almost a decade now, but what's crazy is they used to be pretty good friends. Dana was a huge fan of Oscar when he was a pro boxer, they supported each other as promoters, and according to both of them, they had a solid friendship. But since about 2017, these two have devolved from business friends into straight up enemies to the point where they both go out of their way to mention the other just to badmouth them. The funny part about their heated rivalry is that sometimes I can't tell if they straight up hate each other or if the sexual tension between them is coming to a boil, because I cannot imagine feuding with another man for 10 years straight, and yeah, in this video I'm going to be talking about all this and more. But first, let's talk about the Dana clip that I showed you a moment ago. So he is speaking in reference to an article that was posted sometime last week that reports that Oscar is facing foreclosure on an office building that Golden Boy Promotions owns in downtown LA. If I'm reading the article correctly, the loan was for $27 million and he still owed $23 million by the deadline, which was July of last year. Oh boy. Something that I tried to look into and couldn't really find a clear answer on is, seeing as the loan is in Golden Boy Promotions' name, then would Oscar personally be fucked if the building gets foreclosed? Like, is Golden Boy considered a completely separate entity from De La Hoya even though he owns Golden Boy? Also, I'm assuming that the loan still needs to get paid back somehow or legal action is going to be taken, so is Oscar himself or is his company going to be liable for any of the recourse? I really don't know. Regardless, this is not a great look for the guy, and thus it's a prime opportunity for Dana to kick his archenemy while he's down. Do I think that Oscar's actually going to go broke? Probably not. Like, there is actually being broke versus rich people broke. When rich people go broke, they usually just end up selling some of their properties and assets, and even though they can't live as egregiously wealthy as they did before, they are still way more comfortable than the rest of us. I get the feeling that's what's going on with De La Hoya, but that's not going to stop Dana from painting him as a guy that's on the verge of homelessness. I'm not really sure what to make of Oscar potentially losing one of his office buildings. I don't really care for or about the guy all that much because he's a bit of a weirdo, but I do find myself wondering if Dana is petty enough that he'd actually be happy if De La Hoya somehow ends up homeless. Okay, I want to spend the rest of this video discussing how Dana and Oscar went from being on good terms to hating each other's guts, starting from when things began to go south. Let's rewind the clocks back to May 2017 when the negotiations between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather's boxing match were nearly finalized, and Oscar had this to say.
To me, it'll be a disrespect for boxing if a UFC fighter who has zero experience in boxing came and fought Floyd Mayweather. And if Floyd Mayweather went and fought McGregor in the octagon, it would be a disrespect to the octagon because, I mean, if both guys fought each other in the ring, then Floyd would win easily. If they fought in the octagon, McGregor would win hands down.
Then just a week later, Dana did an interview with TMZ where he didn't hide how offended he was at De La Hoya's comments.
It's crazy. I mean, what is this guy doing? What's his deal? That's what I said. I'm basically saying to him, what's up? Why would you say something like that? Instead, it makes it sound like he has no confidence whatsoever in Triple G versus Canelo, which I have come out and said publicly is a good fight.
Honestly, I think that Oscar criticizing Maymac hurt Dana's feelings a little bit because, one, I really don't think that what De La Hoya said was even all that crazy. Like, I remember a lot of sports personalities saying a lot worse things about the fight back in 2017, but I will say, in Dana's defense, these guys had a good relationship with each other for quite some time up to that point. Even if Oscar did feel that way about the fight, it probably would have been best for him to keep his mouth shut about it. Like, there was genuinely nothing to gain from him talking shit about a fight that was being co-promoted by a guy that you claim to be a friend. Oscar was probably feeling jealous and insecure that Dana was tied to the biggest boxing fight of all time and lashed out when he shouldn't have, and on the flip side, Dana probably felt a bit betrayed by someone he considered a friend. And seeing as how this was the beginning of the end of their friendship, I wonder if Oscar looks back at this moment and regrets saying what he said, because his comments here started a grudge that they are both going to take to the grave. Fast forward a couple of months to the Maymac fight week, Oscar fanned the flames and tweeted how the fight was disrespectful to the sport of boxing. As a result, Dana called him out and questioned if he was going hard on the booger sugar again. And then a couple of days after that, Oscar went on the MMA Hour where he had this to say about Dana. The audio quality is kind of bad though, blame him, not me.
What did you make of Dana White's response?
I mean, I just brush it off. I mean, obviously, look, this is, I never attack him personally whatsoever. I mean, I was obviously very disappointed by his words, but look, it is what it is. I'm going to continue defending the sport of boxing. I'm going to continue respecting the MMA. and move on to September 16th.
So I do think that Oscar was being a bitter little bitch about this situation because he spent the entirety of 2017 crying about how McGregor versus Mayweather was a bad look for boxing or whatever, but this is the same guy who was trying to set up Conor versus Canelo in 2016.
Conor McGregor and Golden Boy coming together. But the only fight I would love to see, and this is the one that makes the most sense, that would be the most exciting, that would be a guaranteed knockout, is against Canelo Alvarez. And they're in the same weight class. So it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, imagine.
I agree that, yeah, sure, Maymac was just a glorified circus fight, but that shit was hype. But to pretend like Conor versus Canelo would somehow have been a more legitimate boxing fight is ridiculous. De La Hoya was green with envy that he missed out on a huge payday, which is understandable, but he should have just taken the L in silence instead of going on multiple temper tantrums about it. Mind you, I do not like the fact that I'm on Dana's side here, but I gotta call it like I see it. Oscar was in the wrong here for sure, and although in hindsight I think that Dana would have been better off just ignoring him and not escalating the beef, there wouldn't have been any problems if De La Hoya wasn't such a sore loser. Now this is where things really start to heat up. In the following year, Oscar kicks off Golden Boy MMA, where he infamously headlines his first card with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, who were both well into their 40s. As we all know, Chuck ended up getting knocked out cold, and almost immediately Dana took to the internet to call out Oscar.
People even think I'm remotely bad-mouthing Chuck Liddell, but the reality is, first of all, let's say this first. I heard last week the cokehead Oscar De La Weirdo is talking shit that I don't have any place to tell guys when to retire. I don't tell friends when. First of all, it's called friendship. Friendship, you fucking cokehead. I've been friends with Chuck Liddell, for 20 years. And the reality is that Chuck Liddell retired when he should have retired.
Again, I hate to say it, but I agree with Dana. I mean, is there anybody that actually disagrees with him on this one? The fact that Oscar seriously thought it would be a good idea, or just even morally acceptable, to have a 48-year-old Chuck Liddell step back into a cage speaks to how he had no business promoting MMA. The way I see it, Oscar wanted to get back at Dana for promoting the biggest boxing match of all time, so naturally his response was to promote the worst MMA event of all time. Then once word of this got back to De La Hoya, he released a press statement where he said that Dana needs to shut the fuck up, and then a couple of weeks after that, Oscar told the cameras that he would beat Dana's ass if they ever fought.
It's the holidays. Let's send Dana a big
Could we ever see you guys settle your differences in a ring or an octagon, Oscar?
I'll beat his ass.
Yeah? Thank you so much, man. Good luck.
He would then double down on this the very next day.
Sounds defensive here.
Your
Jeez.
response?
Let's get in the ring.
Is that how you want to
Come
settle
on.
this?
Yeah, why not? Let's get in the ring. 3 rounds. Let's do this. Let's do this under Canelo 5 de Mayo.
Dana never responded to Oscar calling him out, which was probably for the best because he would have gotten smoked if they ever boxed, and although tensions were high heading into 2019, that year was actually relatively quiet. There were some remarks back and forth, but it was mostly in the vein of how they didn't like each other, but neither guy took any personal shots. However, in August of 2020, Dana reignited the feud when he was asked about Oscar expressing interest in boxing Vitor Belfort.
Finally, last one. I'm a good friend of yours, Oscar De La Hoya, has announced he's coming out of retirement to box again. I just wondered if you had any.
Cocaine isn't cheap. It's expensive. Gotta make money.
A year later in 2021, Oscar came out of hiding and tweeted at Alexander Volkanovski after he beat Brian Ortega and told him that he's being underpaid by the UFC. Not wrong! Dana replied to the tweet accusing De La Hoya of faking having COVID so that he could avoid getting knocked out by Vitor. Then just 2 days after these tweets, Dana had one of his most famous press conference performances ever when he was asked about his best friend.
Now let's get into De La Hoya. And the only reason that I'm telling you this is because he is a lying, two-faced, hypocritical sack of shit. And I hate him so much that I love to prove that he's a lying, hypocritical, two-faced piece of shit.
Dana follows this up by going on a 15-minute presentation into how poorly Oscar paid his fighters on the Golden Boy MMA card and generally calling him a liar, which is a good example of the pot calling the kettle black. And when I say that this was a presentation, I mean that Dana came prepared with several pages of notes that he made an intern research and print out. But the thing is, he didn't even need to bring out the data to prove that Oscar De La Hoya is a bad guy. All he needed to say was that Oscar signed a 48-year-old Chuck Liddell to compete in MMA, and he could have just dropped the mic and left the press conference. However, in a shocking turn of events, instead of escalating the feud, De La Hoya did the unthinkable.
It's for a good reason. There were some exchanges going back and forth, me and Dana, which I apologized to him 1,000%. I mean, I think that there's still a lot of business to be done between me and Dana in the future. I know that he was trying to cross over here to boxing. I don't think it's been successful. I don't think he's really pushed it that much. But if he ever wants to talk and sit down, and I mean, imagine merging our two powerhouses together and creating something together. I mean, it would be pretty unique.
And when asked about Oscar trying to squash the beef, Dana had this to say.
I feel like De La Hoya's apology was sincere, but there's no way that he and I can ever be friends again. You know, he and I were actually friends. I used to go to his fights. I used to watch his fights. I used to promote his fights. That guy did way too much damage for us to ever be friends again.
You know, this is where I would usually say that Dana's pettiness is getting the best of him. He even said that Oscar's apology sounded sincere and that he should bury the hatchet and at least be civil with one another again. I would have said that if it weren't for the fact that just a couple of months later, when Dana got caught on camera slapping his wife, De La Hoya was quick to jump on Twitter and made a bad joke about Dana hitting his wife in fighter pay. I feel like if Oscar was actually serious about mending their relationship, he would have refrained from doing shit like this. And I know that some of you guys are going to be like, well, Dana said that he didn't want to be friends, so Oscar doesn't owe him anything, which is true. And I guess I can only speak for myself here when I say that if I apologize to someone, regardless of whether or not they accept it, I try to do right by them moving forward. Dana never responded because at the time he definitely had bigger things to worry about, but he didn't hold back when he was asked about Oscar here.
Oscar De La Hoya
Okay.
is a two-faced lion fucking nut job. You know, and yeah, me and Oscar are never gonna be cool.
Y'all never gonna be cool again.
Never. Never, ever.
And then shortly thereafter, Dana officially started Zuffa Boxing, and De La Hoya has been very vocal about how it's doomed to fail because the UFC business structure won't work in boxing, which I do agree with. Oscar has made 2 post-event recaps for each of the 2 Zuffa Boxing events, and in each one, he finds every excuse he can to criticize the talent, the matchups, and the production quality, which almost certainly led to Dana calling him out for going broke. I'm gonna end this video off by saying this. I think it's interesting that Dana and Oscar have different reasons for how the beef started. According to Dana, the relationship went south when De La Hoya talked shit about the Maymac fight, but according to Oscar, the beef started when he started his own MMA promotion. To me, it seems pretty clear that Dana's take on the situation is more accurate, but that's not even the point. This is a good example of how in life everyone's the hero of their own story. Because if Oscar never threw a temper tantrum about Maymac, then Dana wouldn't have talked shit back to him, then he probably wouldn't have felt the need to try and challenge the UFC by making Golden Boy MMA, and they would probably still be cool with each other now. Anyways, that is the video for today. Definitely let me know your thoughts on the ongoing lovers quarrel between these 2 egomaniacs. Who do you think is in the right, or is there even a guy who is in the right? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
What's going on with you and Dana? You guys were cool.
Yeah, we were.
Then what happened?
We were actually cool. When I first thought about getting into the MMA, yeah, I strongly feel that he just wanted to bury me, you know, not have competition. You know, he started talking shit about me. You know, yeah, what does he talk about me? The coke and the pantyhose. Yeah. So what? 15 years ago? Like, right. So what? And what, that I don't have friends? And like, it's absurd